When I was growing up, home ownership was the right of many people becoming an adult, and it was pretty common for parents to get married in their early 20s and purchase their first 3-bedroom semi-detached house in a nice area, 10 minutes from great schools, for about £80,000 in the heart of Surrey. And they paid down their cheap mortgages over 20 years whilst enjoying their later years mortgage-free in a home worth about £2 million today during a lifetime of generous capital appreciation. But that warm naivety has turned into something more lucid. I don't really recognise our current housing market, where small terraced houses in poor conditions are selling for over £300,000 today. There's nothing more satisfying than getting into your first home. It's the culmination of years of hard work and planning, and the start of a new chapter in one's life. Whether it's a new build that's ready to move into from day one, or a more challenging project that requires a whole top-to-bottom renovation, it's a rewarding experience all the same. With a little elbow grease and a lot of enthusiasm, you can create a home that you can be proud of and enjoy for years to come, and make some money in the process that's completely tax-free. But I can't help but think, since the pandemic, everything has completely changed, and for first-time buyers, owning a home is no longer some kind of birthright, but instead a distant and unobtainable goal. And this is due to the fact that with the rise of the pandemic, wages have become stagnant and house prices have soared, with mortgage rates more expensive than ever before. These factors have pushed the goal of home ownership even further out of reach for the average first-time buyer, creating an environment in which it is incredibly difficult to save up the necessary funds. And this has meant that many first-time buyers are locked out of the market, unable to take advantage of the current high interest rates and put down a deposit on a property. The situation has been made all the more difficult by the fact that many lenders have tightened their criteria, making it even harder for first-time buyers to secure a mortgage. All of this serves to make the dream of home ownership a distant one for the majority of people. And it's a situation which shows no signs of improving in the near future. What was once a realistic goal after years of diligently saving, taking small steps up the property ladder and making wise financial decisions has once again been pulled from underneath us, with properties becoming increasingly expensive to buy and forcing mortgages to become more and more costly, which ultimately makes it more difficult for people to confidently make a start on their journey to home ownership. And it can be disheartening, and many will be left feeling deflated and unable to take that first step on the ladder. This is why it's so important to be savvy with money, make wise investments, and plan carefully when it comes to saving for a home. Mortgage rates have been amazingly low for a long time, and many of us have grown accustomed to having 1.5% interest rates on our mortgages, allowing us to purchase bigger, better, and frankly more expensive houses, which only increased the rising demand of the property market further. This inflated all the prices of homes to levels that are now unaffordable for many. Though with the help of cheap credit, this still made it possible for a lot of families and young people to purchase a home. However, now these fixed rate mortgages are coming up for renewal, many are starting to realise that the amount of money they borrowed, and quite possibly stretched, is now becoming totally unaffordable, especially as the rates rise once again. This is a real issue for many people who have been unable to anticipate the increase in mortgage payments due to the once incredibly low rates. Ultimately, this means you have to come up with a conclusion and make an informed decision on whether it would be best for you to move out, rent a new place, or downsize the current home that you're in. It's important to weigh the pros and cons of each option to determine which would be the best fit for you. Moving out would give you more freedom and the chance to start fresh. However, you may lose the sense of security that comes with having your own place. Renting a home could provide more flexibility, and you wouldn't have to worry about the costs associated with owning a house, but you'd have to be prepared, if you're renting, to rent on a short-term basis. And downsizing could save you money in the long run, but it would mean saying goodbye to some of your belongings and adjusting to a smaller living space. I think there are 3 main ways to mitigate the current challenges. They won't solve them, but they might make it a little easier to plan forwards. Firstly, if you have the financial means, it might be a good idea to pay down your mortgage to reduce the loan to value ratio. Paying down your mortgage can be a great way of reducing your monthly payments and making that money go further, potentially allowing you to pay off your loan a lot quicker. Secondly, planning far in advance of your fixed rate mortgage can be really beneficial, as it allows you to evaluate the current market and find out what you might need to pay on higher interest rates. And this can also allow you to consider other options, such as switching to a different mortgage provider or looking for a better type of mortgage, for example, exploring a tracker over a fixed rate. And finally, it's important to take a look at your lifestyle expenses and identify where can you cut back. Do you really need that financed Audi on the drive? Making small changes to living expenses can make a big difference in the long run. And all those little adjustments, when added up, can make big differences to potentially covering the cost of higher interest rates. And that's a decision worth considering if it means staying in the home that you ultimately love. Ultimately, I don't think we'll see cheap lending anytime soon, and it just means millennials and Gen Z have to work harder and harder just to stay above the water. And those good old days of buying an affordable house for 150k on a cheap mortgage is beginning to be an almost distant dream. And I fear that as it becomes harder and harder, that when you do eventually get the keys to your new front door, whether it will fill us with a sense of huge pride and achievement, or relief from years of defeat, hardship, and struggles to get there. You could argue in years to come, the great wealth transfer will begin from the boomers to their millennial children. But with spiraling costs of care and huge inheritance tax rules, even that isn't a safe guarantee anymore before the government get their hands on the money first. There isn't a huge answer or one-size-fits-all solution to help everyone in the current property market. It is an absolute nightmare, and there is a huge chronic problem with the amount of supply we have in this country. A lot of the government schemes have always focused on incentivizing demand, but demand has never been the problem. It is the supply. And until we start fixing the supply by building more homes, I fear that the property market will always spiral out of control, especially like we've seen over the past few years. I am genuinely intrigued. What are your thoughts on the property market? Are you trying to buy a house right now? And if so, have you done it? Or has it been a nightmare with rising property prices and interest rates? I think this video is more to acknowledge that it is really hard right now buying a home, especially if you've been saving for years. And the reality is, if you now can't afford a house, then that's okay. Just keep saving. Keep putting your money into investments or savings accounts to grow that war chest, and when the time is right, you can strike again. Or if you're a home mover and you're worried about this year, then that is the same position for 1.7 million people who are coming off of their fixed rate mortgages and need to make a really important decision. To explore all this in more detail with graphs and data, check out this video here, which is why it's so hard for first-time buyers right now to get on the property ladder. It explores all the data from the Bank of England, the Office for National Statistics, and way more sources. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Click on this video here, check it out, and I will see you in the next video.